Science number 274. I've got Jake Grant here. I myself am Jack Purdy. We were down Akshay this week, but it's okay. There's a lot. We've only had two. There's only two major plot points to talk about. But Jake, if we didn't have any self-control, that we might talk for 2 hours about these various things. Uh, I don't think we will. It being baseball and the departure of our athletic director. Um, I'll start with this just to warm us up. Where where's your head at, all things considered, with baseball before we get into the details?
Yeah, I think to recap, they went to Oxford. They played, they were the two seed, of course. They played Western Kentucky on Friday night. It was a 9-2 win. They played Murray State on Saturday evening, night.
It
It
was
ended late.
afternoon turned into evening. It was
Yeah, it was a long game.
I
Uh,
watched an hour and a half finale of a TV show in the middle of the game and still had an inning and a half left. It was so long.
nice.
It was so long.
Yeah. Well, either way, they did wind up losing that game 13-11 to Murray State, the four seed, and then losing on Sunday in the, I guess, losers bracket championship question.
Sure, yeah, something like that.
We'll go
Yeah,
with that.
elimination game.
11-9 to the home team, Ole Miss Rebels. I think, again, I'm not going to try and belabor too many points. For perspective, Ole Miss did lose the opener to Murray State as well. I think this kind of was emblematic of a lot of the stuff we've talked about all year. This year, Friday, they got a really solid showing from starting pitching. Tate McKee pitched a gem, one-run ball. Carson
Hmm.
Ballard came in for two innings of one-run relief after Tate got a little bit touched up there at the start of the seventh. Bats were pretty consistent. There were still eight men left on base, but when you score 9 runs, I don't think you can complain about that too much. And Tate scattered 7 hits around, so not too bad there. I think I think Friday was kind of the good emblematic of what this team could be. Saturday, Georgia Tech lost to Murray State 13-11. Murray State, we flagged this last week. Murray State and Western Kentucky, respectively, two of the better, if not best, 3 and 4 seeds, respectively. Murray State went 41-13 in the Missouri Valley Conference. You might know them, former home of Dallas Baptist, but that great Indiana State little run of 2, 3 years.
Hmm.
And that Indiana State team, I believe we bumped into on their way up the totem pole there. But all that to say, Murray State is kind of the antithesis, or maybe the purest distillation of this Georgia Tech team. Sure, they did lose, but they gave up two batches of 5 runs. Murray State responded to a 3-run top of the first by Georgia Tech. Great start
Let me
with five
stop you
runs.
there. Let me stop
Oh,
you there because at that point, after because we were the road team against Murray State, we had gone through
mhm,
about as ideal of a first game as we had wanted. Like when we talked about this last week, it was like get up early on Western Kentucky and have
mhm.
Tate throw as long as he possibly can. And sure enough, he threw like 110 pitches, went 7 innings, and we were up 8 runs by the time he was out of the game. Like it was picture perfect. Top of the first in the second game, we get 3 runs early. It's like holy crap, they're ambushing early. This exact I think they ended up finishing the season with 10 straight games scoring in the first inning. Like they were doing what they needed to do. And that, yeah, like we had 9.5 innings straight of like, holy crap, we're actually doing the thing. And then we then proceeded that with 17.5 innings of what the hell is going on.
Yeah, and I think to continue down that road, Brady Jones has had some excellent starts this year. He's also had a couple clunkers. This was a clunker. Five
This
earned
was
runs in 2/3 of an inning
of
pitched.
note, two clunkers in a row in big situations because it was also the Clemson game last week, or I guess 2 weekends ago at this point, where we were
Yeah,
still kind of in it, had runners on and points, but this was a much bigger clunker, all things considered, though.
yeah, for sure. And the kind of points that you want to look at around there, Colin Mason Patel, he did wind up giving up 4 as part of the 5-run barrage in the fourth. You got two good innings out of him, but really it's kind of a regression to the mean type of situation. I think down
Yeah.
the stretch here, at least a little bit, and it was a collection of other pitching to get Georgia Tech through the rest of the game. Jack, I know I talked about left on base in the first game, and you might go, Jake, these are really high level counting stats, but I do think they're emblematic. Murray
Oh yeah.
State also had a lot more traffic on the on the base paths. They left
Oh yeah.
nine on, not nine on. Georgia Tech was pitching out of jams a lot, and this was
Hmm.
the leaky Georgia Tech pitching, not the okay, they're pitching around and out of jams. And I think it really caught up to Tech
Yeah.
in just about the worst way. You give Murray State. Oh, and didn't even say 7 runs in the top of the fifth for Georgia
Right.
Tech.
We were yeah.
Storming right back.
Right. We were
Like
down. Yeah, we were up 3-0, then down 5-3, and then down 10-3, and we were just like, oh well, that's it. That's the end of that. And then they just got them all back in one inning. And then by the time, and keep it like, this is the fifth inning. We're like 2.5 hours into the game at this point too. Like, it's already felt like a marathon, and they just reset the entire game in the fifth inning. And after Patel had just been beat up to death at this point as well. So this is where I think we enter into the weekend of the okay, we really don't know what the hell is going to go happen. And the only thing we know for sure is that Jalen Payton starting tomorrow, one way or another. But how they were going to get through that game was going to be very, very hard. But they
yeah.
did not, yeah, and just didn't have the firepower to fight back. Because again, as you mentioned, leaky pitching just over and over. There wasn't no crazy defense thing. Guys were getting hits, but still, they could not do anything to solve. And keep in mind, Murray State won this whole regional. Like, they were good legitimately and beat the brakes off of everybody they played. Uh, we can't score 9 runs and keep losing though, and that's a problem. That's a problem. Or 11 runs in this case.
Yeah. I mean, that's very Georgia Tech. Like I said, I think it's very emblematic of where they've been. And then
Mhm.
we'll close it out with a mention of the Ole Miss game. That was again another example of a jump out to a 3-run lead and then allow 5 runs.
This game was a war of attrition if we ever played one all season long, because it was another instance where they had like a 45-minute first inning. Like, both Murray State in this game had just marathon first innings that took forever to get through. In both instances we were down 5-3 by the end of those innings. And just
Yeah.
pitch counts were inflated all over the place. We at least kept this close the entire time. Like, there was 3 lead changes, I want to say, in the game. Like, this felt much more like a two-possession basketball game than a baseball game, so to say. Uh, and we had to just comb through. We had so many guys that had to pitch this. I think Patel went back in again at one point and got hit on again. Chicoli did some pitching in this game. The ninth inning is just what kills me, because we had we were the road team in this case again, so we had to pitch through the ninth, which who the hell we were down 11-9. If we had gotten the runs in the ninth, down 2 to at least tie the game or go up 1, I don't think any of us had any confidence our pitching was going to put up a 0 spot in that ninth inning. Uh,
Well, I sure after the 2 games, Murray State and Ole Miss, I don't know. Granted, you're getting putting carts before horses, but
right.
I don't know how you have much of an expectation for another 9 innings on top of that, you know?
No, that's the other thing. Is like, it's no shocker that Murray State ended up winning this whole regional, because both us and Ole Miss were absolutely just destroyed and depleted by the end of this elimination game. Uh, so if we had played Murray State, I wouldn't have been shocked if we had gotten run ruled in that game, just purely because of, like, I don't know what gas is left. Were we hitting? Sure, we were still hitting. We still scored 9 runs in this game. Like, we scored 9, 11, and 9, and lost 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's emblematic of this team. It's emblematic how regionals go. It's just frustrating because you think, you get the 4 seed in the second game. Okay, this is Georgia Tech's time. Things are playing out nicely.
Yeah.
If they flip that Murray State game, I don't know. I'd feel good about getting them the rematch too, because clearly their pitching had a lot to offer, if you
Right.
will.
Right. Yeah. There was ways out of this. It's just not getting the Murray State game. But that's the first game of winner versus winner in the winners bracket sets the
Yeah,
tone for the rest of the regional for the most part across the board, because that's just you can at worst play just one more game. All right, yeah, at best for that team play only one more game, and then you're fresh and you're basically operating as if it's a normal weekend series, and maybe you don't have to play a fourth game. Hopefully, you don't have to play a fifth game either. Um, to go back to the ninth inning, keep talking about this is so emblematic of our season. The final at bat was like the perfect encapsulation of the entire Danny Hall 21st century era, with bases loaded, shot to get the game in our hands, and we strike out, and that's it. And that's 32 years of Danny Hall done at that point.
it was a lot more like the last 15. So that's where I'll leave it. Great,
Yeah,
great, great highs, great to have. I don't besmirch that at all. But man, what a what a way to go.
It's yeah. I mean, they went out guns a blazing. That's for sure. They mentioned. I know Drew mentioned in the post game that they just hate that this is how it had to end for him. Like, there's you don't want to. This team was riding as high. They were as good as they've been in a long time for the team, at least since pre-COVID. I think this ended up being the 10th highest win percentage season in Danny's run. So definitely of the better seasons we've had. Um, I yeah, series wise, I think just thinking of the series, we like. I mean, this felt like more like how those front series of the year go, where we know how good we should be against teams that we should beat, and then just little things keep
Yeah,
happening, and it just drives us up a wall. Against ACC teams, we know we're going to lose a series here or there. We're going to probably get swept once or twice. But over the course of the our ACC schedule, outside of that one little 7 game losing streak, which probably did us our number in of not hosting,
little.
I'm just sure I don't know it's big. Um,
I know. I'm just pulling your leg, Jack.
but at like it just I hate how this all just comes back to haunt us every single time. And I mean, you can read our Twitter replies. You can our Slack all pretty much at the same exact message. It's like more of the same over and over again. Why do we expect anything else? To which I don't want to be that narcissistic about it and that critical of it, but damn, I mean, if it's that it is that though. Like, not much ever changed in terms of how we leave and exit these regionals. But the fact Murray State won was also emblematic of just the grander narrative that's been going on in this NCAA baseball tournament, which is no one knows who the hell is going to win any game at this point.
Yep. For the recap, for those who have not been tuned in, there have been, Jack, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 regional hosts out. That's quite a big number. Certainly,
Including the top two
yeah.
seeds.
Both of whom were SEC teams, by the way. You wound up out of those 8 hosts and 13 bids that they had, and I think the ACC had 9, with I would say a pretty nice mix of teams in
Yep.
the among the that the last 16 that remain. I believe it's 2 Big 12. That'll be Arizona and West Virginia. You've
Mhm.
got Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, LSU. Um, and I think that's it from the SEC. You've got UNC and then Duke, Florida
Duke.
State,
Yep.
Louisville, and Miami out of the ACC. Miami and Louisville do play each other, as do Tennessee and Arkansas in the regionals. For some reason, West Virginia LSU feels very familiar. I'm gonna have to go in and look it up somewhere that and maybe they've met recently, or maybe my
I
brain's just saying like dark blue slash purple and yellow
maybe
slash gold.
I feel like they
I don't
may have
know.
played in football somewhere in there also. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I do like that the Pac-12 is still alive in this tournament, considering the Oregon State's in it, and they still label themselves as a Pac-12 team on their patchwork and what they have on the walls in the stadium over there. So,
I
uh,
think they're technically independent in baseball. That's how they show up in the data.
technically, yeah, but yeah, it's still they still have Pac-12 iconography in their stadium, which I very much appreciate.
Yes.
Uh,
And then you've got 3 mid majors too there. UTSA out of the American, Murray State, of
yep.
course, and then Coastal Carolina. But Coastal Carolina is a seeded team, so like
Right, that's there's no shocker there. Yeah, you may as well equate them to the ACC and SEC, and just in terms of talent level when it's all said
yeah,
and done.
for
Um,
sure. It was a fun
it's
week though, or fun weekend, I should say.
a lot. Yeah, yeah. If you watch Squeeze Play or any of the other, just hopping around at the games, there was so much. There a very plenty of drama. That and at the Women's College World Series as well. Like there, you can find any, and most of the games were very good across the board. So I
Yep.
yeah, next weekend will be if you want to watch, will be interesting. I don't know how much I'll be interested at this point now that we're out of it. But there's good baseball to be found up and down from Friday through Monday. There are some game threes that, if necessary, will be on Monday this coming week
Mhm.
as well. Uh,
I think it's 4-8, and then 4/4, and then
yeah,
4 on Mondays.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically, yeah. Sorry, television rules everything at this point, as we've learned across every
Hmm.
single conference realignment discussion we've had. Um, let's do a little bit of Danny Hall here because again, this is the longest tenured member of the athletic department that is no longer going to be a full time coach here. Maybe not the longest tenured at the athletic department, but at least the longest tenured coach on campus. Will We'll see what his next role is. He mentions that at least when J Batt was at the school, he was offered a special assistant kind of role. Who knows what this looks like now? As of now, in terms of just the longest tenured coach, that now turns over to Bruce Hepler, who is in his 30th year. So we had to wait 28 years to get this moniker, which only came because Grover Hinsdale also stepped down this year. So overall, we lost Grover Hinsdale, Danny Hall, Nell Fortner, and J Batt, including Danny Hall and J Batt within a 4 hour span on Saturday. Uh, it's a very interesting kind of turnover. I mean, is it? We got the announcements within a 4 hour. We lost the game and we heard the announcement that Bat where the Thamble notifications popped up and all in a 4 hour span on Saturday afternoon. It's a very interesting, just high level, like in terms of like the mix of impact on campus and both in terms of longevity and front facing sports is a very interesting list of people that are now no longer here. Three of them, all of them finishing this semester as well, because the track season it just doesn't end until next week. Basketball season ended in March for us, and then yeah, Baden Hall.
Yeah,
It's so strange. It's so strange.
and we'll talk more about Bat in just a sec. I think as of now, eyes are on the transfer portal and who the heck knows with coaching turnover. Obviously, there's not been a ton of smoke there. Of course, I think the common narrative for years has been, oh, is James Ramsay the next guy up? But quite frankly, we don't have a lot of information on either of those right now. So it's kind of a wait and see type position.
No, I think the immediate impacts on the baseball team itself is we've had record transfers on in and out of the team the last 2 years. You can probably assume that there's going to be a number of folks that are going to leave because they know where they're not going to get playing time here. Number of folks that are going to come in, like we saw this year with Ken Schmidt, your other guys. Uh, what that'll be also Danny announced he was leaving a long time ago, so it's not like people haven't been unprepared for this, unlike with Fortner, where it was had no
Boosh.
expectation she was gonna leave, and then a week after we lost to Richmond, she was out. So
And that was post her associate head coach also being out too. So
right there's
I'm
yeah
sure continuity helps here.
other things there yeah, and in this case no what there was no secondary announcement. They're like, oh, Ramsey's gonna leave with Hall or anything like none of that ever came out. Nothing was ever said or implied on that realm. So what our roster looks like next year, who knows? Which of our guys are gonna like? I don't know if I don't think Drew's gonna declare for the draft, but who knows? The
I
big
don't
thing
think he
is,
can. Isn't he a young freshman or a young sophomore?
I don't know. I forgot what the rules are on
Let's
that,
look
but
into that. That rings a very large bell in my head. So
gotcha. The what I do want to note though is that there was a lot of prevailing sentiment of those that are very attuned with the college baseball landscape and noted that with the amount of young talent we have, we are still set up pretty well for the down the line. Like we still had some good young pitching. We had a lot of good. I mean, Alex Hernandez led the ACC in RBIs and set the record for freshman RBIs in program history this year. So we've got a lot of we've got dudes still. Like this isn't the end of this team, so to say. If even if Danny's not there, there's still a lot of guys that should in theory be around next year with the portal. Who the hell knows? Um, but in terms of being a team that can at least should be in the tournament next year. I don't see why we shouldn't be. That's months and months into the future of things to expect. But I think all things considered, the losing a coach and everyone leaves may not be as dramatic as we've seen with other teams that are good in similar spots because this was coming for a while. People knew about it, and there is a very clear sentiment that people want James to be the next head coach, and he's still here, which implies that he probably thinks he's going to get the job and didn't leave for
and
somewhere
we haven't
else.
heard much scuttlebutt even as
No,
the leaves have started to turn. But
no.
it's a wait and see game now. Also, a lot of good baseball left to play. So I'm sure it puts whoever that interim slash new AD is in an interesting spot. But we'll get to movement on that here too. Hopefully soonish. You gotta cross these bridges in some sort of order. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens there.
I don't believe anyone will match the volume of wins Danny Hall accumulated at Georgia Tech by a coach.
Maybe ever.
Probably like this might be the unbreakable record, at least in baseball for Tech, is that you've got a coach. You've either got to win like crazy for like 25 years or be here for 40 to beat Danny's record, probably of just sheer volume of wins. No one's gonna beat
Yep.
Danny's percentage of wins probably at all either, just because of how the math works out and how time advancing works. So I feel like he's got that locked up pretty safe and sound for the next forever.
It's a fight for second place.
Basically, yep.
Maybe I can catch Jim Morris or whoever's
Yeah,
number two.
Jim. Yeah, it would be Jim, right? I don't. It's got it had
I assume so. I mean, I can't imagine it'd be anyone else. So
right. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Okay. Any other closing baseball thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
All things considered, I'm still calling the season a win. Sad end, but I think considering we were our expectation was not to win the regular season title. The expectation was middle of the pack, probably. Hopefully, they make the tournament, and we've definitely exceeded public expectations. I'll give them that.
Jack, I'm not going to say my expectation was met. I'm going to say my anxieties were met.
Well,
What is
that
that? You're
goes that
like,
that that's just normal. Let me tell you, the cardiac
yeah,
jacket element this weekend was too much, too much.
it was a two seed SEC regional, then home, right?
Once
Like
I know, once
that's
you,
that's kind of like the this team outside of a couple anomalous years, the last 15 years, this has been,
it's what they do.
yeah, anomalous high, anomalous low, but it's not anomalous, Jack.
What is
The
not?
high quality wares
Oh,
at Section 103, section103.com, the best place to find Georgia Tech apparel. I think I missed this recently. You can get Section 103 in the College Football Hall of Fame.
that you can.
That's pretty good. That's new. That's different. That's fun. I'd probably just go to their website. You might have a bigger selection, but hey, gets it in front of more people, and especially people who are just into to poke into town. And if you can get the good stuff, you might as well tell Section 103 that we sent you. If you go online, of course you can go over there in person and make a whole day of it. The hall's great, but FTRS code 10% off online and free shipping orders over $80. Jack, I think that's all I got on Section 103. In the meantime, our folks can find them at section103.com and at Section 103 on Instagram.
I would say goodbye to Drew Burress jersey at Rush Chandler, but no one's going to Rush Chandler for a game until next year, so we'll see about that. Um, okay, we mentioned James Ramsay. I did want to this. I'm going to transfer into our J Batt discussion here. I did mention a few weeks ago when Danny had announced that he was going to step down at the end of the year. It was asked like, okay, have you told Jay who you want to follow up? Do you have a name? And Danny did tell him a name. He didn't tell us publicly who that name was, but it was heavily implied for a long time that James Ramsay was next in line for the job once Danny was gone. Problem is that guy he told was J Batt, and that guy's no longer here as J Batt has taken the equivalent AD job at Michigan State. They have paid out the wazoo for him to come there, and understandably so because J Batt had a very quick, impactful run here at Tech from 2022 to now in June of 2025, or I guess May when he departed. Uh, so in terms of the baseball side of things, no idea what the deal is there. They also haven't announced if there's going to be an interim AD or what that's going to look like. This got announced Saturday afternoon. It's currently Tuesday evening. So, uh, what if anything? It probably is just Cabrera will just be the acting for now. Probably as far as I know, uh, a
Yeah,
board by committee kind of
because
thing. They're a very high
Chief of
functioning.
Staff is gone, right? He's a president of
Oh,
who's
Palumbo.
the interim last time? No, Frank.
Uh, oh, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh, this is terrible podcasting. It's gonna drive me nuts.
I don't remember.
Oh my
But
gosh, but last
oh
time's
yeah,
interim is not around anymore.
no, he's not. So that's it. I
Frank
feel like
Neville. Frank
Frank Neville.
Neville.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Yes, that's right. Oh man, I forgot about that plot point. This is this you only get this here at Science. Uh, they're a very high functioning athletic department, so I bet they can just do this by committee for the time being and kind of be just fine. Especially considering we've only got one athlete left participating in any NCAA events right now. That being Kendall Ward, who we'll get to later. So I mean, all things. Where we're at right now is there's no interim. There's no declared interim. Batt has left for Michigan State, and they're going to start the search later this week, according to the press release that the institute released.
He got a very glowing write-up in terms of what I saw in the Daily Digest, all things considered.
He
I
did,
feel like I'm
yes,
used to athletic directors leaving or being asked to leave and it being
yeah,
like, mm. And I think that ties into my biggest apprehension about all this. Like he hired, Brent Key, who was already in the building,
yep,
Stoudemire, which kind of came out of nowhere, Karen Blair,
right.
which seems like a good hire based on
It's
tenure.
very impressive so far.
Seems like the next man up for baseball may already be in the building too. But
True.
my apprehension here, right? Like very successful at raising money, at launching full steam ahead. We'll see how that goes. But I think my big apprehension is just hiring a quality athletic director more than like, oh gosh, I'm broken down that J Batt is leaving. Hyundai deal, clean old-fashioned hate deal, and full steam ahead. And quite frankly, Damon Stoudemire. I have pretty big nits on all of those. Maybe not at the time for Stoudemire, but I mean,
Yeah,
I know you got to find money where you got it, but taking the biggest game on Georgia Tech athletics calendar out of the home stadium, I really didn't like. Hyundai Field,
right,
I feel like that's kind of insulting to no relation to me, to the Grants that donated money for it to be Grant Field.
right.
As much as that is, a good money maker, like and full steam ahead. I'm sure there's great aspects of it. I like renovations to volleyball facilities, chair backing the stadium, but it's a lot of money to spend on a lot of club spaces that get used 6 to 8 times a year.
Oh, those get
I don't
used.
know.
Oh, those get used so many more times. Now that I
I'm
actually work at the institute, those buildings will get used once a week. I guarantee you that.
Well,
Yeah.
I would love to see the numbers on that
Yeah.
because until it happens, I see, okay, we got this Mercedes-Benz deal. And I don't know. I'm not trying to pile on the guy as he goes out the door, but I think as I've been thinking on this more, a lot of the things that have a good dollar sign maybe result next to them, maybe are something that just kind of ground my gears a little bit. I don't know. I think very
Well,
successful with the money side, but even then,
yeah.
the top line dollar on the debt isn't necessarily remarkably down. It feels like we're just, doing all that just to play in the same sandbox as the big guys, which I do appreciate, but
Well,
it's
I think, and
reflective
that's
of where athletics is at right now, as
yeah.
more so than J Batt, I think. So
And that's he talked about that a lot when he would talk about the initiatives and moves that were being made. It was like we want to like we know we can be up there, so we're gonna do what we can to be with those top people. I know Jay's on whatever. There's like some committee with like 10 ADs that's like kind of like the steering committee, so to say, of where college athletics is going. And so he's been in a lot of key discussions and rooms and figuring out what this next era of college athletics is going to look like. And I totally sympathize with just the idea of where you're at on this. Just like, yeah, good lord, it's these all these seem really annoying. At the same time, it's like it's also emblematic of where the entire sport and where all of college athletics are going. And it is we are approaching a sink or swim period right now. We've already seen some schools drop down to D3 because they just don't want to deal with what's coming up soon. Um, the Stoudemire hires right now the most like, is this actually going to work hire? There were some big wins in year one where we kind of gave him some forgiveness, and last year wasn't great. We'll see about Karen Blair. For full steam ahead, two thirds that's already fundraised. We got 300 million of the 500 needed in pocket, like in house right now. So they've got most of that money's already there, which is really good. The Hyundai deal is it's a lot of freaking money that we're getting out of that. Uh, Having the Hyundai logo on the field's not awesome. I mean, sure, that's fine. There wasn't anything there at the time. Not calling it Grand Field's also not amazing. At the same time, it has. I mean that it was 100 plus years ago at this point. So things change, things evolve. I don't like it either. That's like, yeah, there was a very clear, direct sentiment for why John Grant named the field what it was. Um, so that much sucks. Hopefully, I do remember they mentioned like, hey, we'll still keep the name in very specific uses, and I've never seen those use cases yet of how they're going to use the name. So I don't know what the deal is there. Either way, and then the clean old fashioned hate deal, which yes, my God, not having the game on campus for 4 years is awful. At the same time, we're going to make more money. Just speaking to plain facts here, we're going to make more money off of that game before the game even happens than we would in two iterations of that game happening on campus. So there's, in terms of we have to do, and with not many choices, unless the fan base just wants to spend a crap ton more money in an inflationary period on tech athletics. Uh, there's only so many choices you really got there without cutting sports, and cutting sports is not an option. That is just not an option. Uh,
no, they literally can't because
yeah,
they're at the
yeah,
minimum.
they're
So
at the bare minimum. So that was never. It's like we can't just cut. I mean, we're never going to cut baseball or anything, but we can't cut and cutting track and field wouldn't really do anything. That's a half scholarship sport anyways for us. Um,
if anything, they need to add, and I think that's where my friction with it is,
and they've wanted
I
to.
don't
Like
know.
when I interviewed Cabrera 3 years ago, he was like, "Yeah, we want to add a sport eventually. It's just we got to do it well and we got to do it right." And that was before J Batt had entered the picture as well. That was still in the. Jesus, I interviewed him 4 years ago. My goodness. But anyways, uh, all this to say, we are as an athletic department. Also, in terms of on-field performance, we've done better the last 3 years across the board. baseball got better, football obviously got better, women's basketball got better in terms of their reset. Our women's swim team set a lot of records. Or we had really good men's. I mean, for themselves. But our swimming got better. They objectively got better over time.
I would think I would say the men have held serve at that 22nd to 27th best team in the country throughout. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily argue that baseball had any meaningful change from where they were at before his tenure.
Well,
Volleyball has been very consistent, but that's because he's empowered those people to
yeah,
remain competitive.
yes,
So
I say
I'm not about to ascribe all this credit to J Batt, especially we just got done talking about how Nell and Danny and Grover and Bruce
two of
Hepler's
those
been here the whole
two
time,
two of those
like
guys two of those guys were here for so long that it didn't really matter who was going to be the AD at the time. All that I say this because
yeah.
as you pointed out to me, during my time at school, which was 17 to 22, was the worst overall athletic
Hmm.
performance stretch ever in institute history across the board in all
Yeah.
sports. And we needed there had to be a rebound somehow. You may say it was going to naturally come because there's ebbs and flows in life and things like that, but nonetheless, we still had to do the work. And he was in charge of a lot of that work and setting us up to keep on the right trajectory down the line between how we invest in the programs and make sure there's facilities that people want to come and play at and come see things. Like a lot of that work still, the onus is still was on him for a long on that, and he did a good job with it, I think.
This is interesting because I did not come into this podcast session intending to play devil's advocate. I feel like I've leaned into it a little bit here and it's made
Sure,
for
go. I mean, it's
a
fine.
more interesting discussion. So I do want people to know like that. But I mean, I am particularly passionate about the Hyundai Field thing. So I'll say like ascribe that to Jake and the rest is maybe somewhere in between. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to ascribe one way or the other, but at least, tech is trending in the right direction monetarily, investment wise. Shy of understanding this baseball hire situation, I feel at least remotely confident in three of four other big draw type of sports from
Yeah,
volleyball, women's hoops, men's hoops, football. And I think there's potential for men's basketball too. I mean, they were the most injured team in the
this is true.
ACC or
This is
in the
true.
country. I think, or maybe Power Five. I don't know. Some large number that I saw and my brain remembered and is now trying to hurriedly validate in
There
its
was a
head.
chart
So
there was a
there's
chart
a
that
chart. You know
there,
the chart.
there was
Yes.
the chart that noted minutes lost and like production loss, like minutes in production
Yeah.
loss based off the starters, and our logo wasn't even on the chart. Like it was so far, it was such an extreme outlier that they couldn't measure it without just ruining the angle, whatever. Um, I'll let this say. We'll see how this goes. The main potential candidate that's been thrown out there because of just like an obvious solution is this guy named Graham Neff. He's the current athletic director at Clemson. He is a double jacket. Got his MBA. He graduated as a civil engineer and got his business. He got his MBA from Tech as well. He's been the AD there since 2021. On some quick research, he had record donations there, similar to how J Batt did when he was here. They did a lot of media advancements, including pulling a lot of media operations in house and creating a Clemson Plus app kind of thing, as other teams like the Cowboys and like Texas and things have done, where they have their own kind of branded media content. They did a lot of fun. He did a lot of fundraising for new non-revenue sports facilities. Uh, and it's not in terms of like just available options that are convenient. It's certainly not the worst option. Having a guy who has been doing this work in the new modern version of college sports and understands how the athletic director's job is much different than how it was 10 years ago. He's got that experience and he's done that in the ACC critically as well. And he's seen a lot of he's been overseen some athletic success as well. He is a jacket, which is nice. I know it hasn't been the best. We haven't had the best track record of having our own graduates be athletic directors in the past, but at the same time, this is a very
Ah.
yes, very different. All that to say that's an old era. That was an old era, and I think J Bat has set a lot of things in motion to make sure that we are on a track to make sure we do not sink in the sink or swim time in college athletics. And
And Neff seems much more cut out of the same mold than maybe previous, you
exactly,
know.
that's what I was going to say. Like he's done this. He's done this in a way he's seen all this. Also, we'd sticking it to Clemson if we got him, which I don't mind.
the, the reverse of the D-Rad.
Yes, yes.
Um, anyways, I think that's about all we can really concretely say about any of that, right? It's
Yeah.
I don't even know. I haven't even seen any smoke on anything
No,
other than
there's no
maybe
smoke. Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even working at Tech, I have seen not a thing about this at all. So this will any news that, like, Kelly hasn't reported anything, Chad hasn't reported anything, so there's really no news yet on this. Uh, Neff is not news. This guy is just conveniently right there more than anything. He's just the first guy that a lot of people have thought of when it comes to, okay, is this the guy they'll think about for the job, and maybe they will. We'll see. Um, all that considered, it's a big move. I mean, this is very impactful. We had just signed J Batt to a contract extension in December after he did not take the South Carolina job. Uh, and we got a pretty good payout from this, considering he broke the contract mere months after re-signing a new one. So at least we get some financial windfall out of this. Or coming back, but of course, some of that money is going to go right back to paying whoever we get next. Uh, so we shall see. Um, any hopes and dreams for the next athletic director that you can think of in terms of, if anything, that wasn't addressed by Bat or was addressed by Bat that you like, that you'd want to keep, that you want to see keep going down the line here in the next year and a half or so?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to tie this into my odds and ends of the day
Mm-hmm.
as we talk about creative quarter
Oh yeah,
developments in a little bit here, which we'll get to a little bit. There's so much blank slate, for lack of a better term, like blue sky type of planning that we can do as Georgia Tech. There's in terms of obviously probably not a year timeline, but year, 2 year, 3 years, obviously there's investments going on athletically. Transforming tomorrow is a big push, but if we can take advantage and leverage um, kind of how do you say there's several initiatives that are like main streeting or like districting, creative quarter, obviously arts and things like that. You can leverage stuff like that to make the experiences that people have on campus, student, game day, or other, better, right?
yep,
More
yep,
shops, more housing, more like North Avenue is not really a fun place to be right
nope,
now, right?
nope,
And I think creative quarter may help. I'm hopeful that continued development at Science Square and Herndon. Guild Herndon Homes might help improve that. But if we're talking, big investments and things like that, you can, they've planned it out. You can fit a soccer stadium over on Marietta. You can make some of these changes, game day type improvements for atmosphere, right? There
yep,
are
yep,
big picture things that aren't just, you know, chair backing Bobby Dodd, right? For lack
right,
of a better
right,
way to put it,
right. No,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I would hope that we can take a wide angle view. And to your point on adding teams and stuff like that, it's something that like literally needs to happen.
yes,
It needs to
yep,
happen in order to be Title IX compliant. And we live in a strange 2025 world with federal legislation, not
mm-hmm.
even legislation, the opposite of legislation.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but it's still important, I think, you know, to me as a Georgia Tech alumnus, to I assume you and other grads, to be one, having a broad and diverse athletic program, be it in terms of programs, in terms of equitable access for men
yep,
and women, reflective of the quality of campus, and also for students, right? It's something that is at least on some level a service to the students, one that you have to pay to
yes,
to have,
yes,
right? It
yep,
and you should service those students with things that make them interested, engaged, and feel valued on campus. And I'm not just saying this to say start women's soccer. Like that might be a subtext of all this, but like you got to keep all those things in mind. And I think um,
yep,
at the end of the day, like I talk about money grabs and staying competitive and things like that. There's more to life than just, football dollar go up and, suit suites being fancy and modern and renovated, right? There are
yep,
at least as many number of great, memories and engagements at Georgia Tech that I have that are probably more, certainly more that are volleyball, softball, and baseball than,
yep,
combined than football. So
yep.
all that to say, I hope the big picture stays the big picture, and I hope kind of it seems like we're further and further away from that ideal. And thank you for allowing me that soapbox. Anything you got, or can we talk Kendall and creative quarter,
Yeah,
not
I
art
get.
square?
No, I guess my last bit to clarify a couple things on your point. The soccer team, obviously, we want it. There was in the comprehensive campus plan that was released a couple years ago. At this point, there were sketches that included putting a soccer stadium behind the CRC that would require multiple buildings coming down on Marietta Street. So that is not even close to even starting or anything like that. There's not even real projects or shovels in the ground. None of that's even on the table right now. It's just a thing that was proposed more than anything at this point, which sucks that it's still not there. Uh, I think they have overall. I think Cabrera has very much understood this big picture and has understood that athletics is a very critical driver of publicity and exposure for the institute across the board, not just for football. I mean, where were scheduled and the games we were playing for football have been very purposeful, especially last year going to Ireland, things like that. Um, so I don't think they've lost that big picture at all. And I that we've seen the full steam ahead initiative is not just a football thing as well. It's not just a Bobby that stadium renovation plan. It's a let's make sure as many people as we can touch on campus in the athletic department are gonna have a better experience, and people that will be playing here will want to stay here as well. Because again, this is as a lot of our coaches say, it's not a 4 year decision; it's a 40 year decision to play at Tech and to stay at Tech and get your Tech degree. And so, keeping that in mind is still going to be very important. Okay, yes, let's move on to Kendall Ward. We had NCAA prelims this past weekend. I don't know where they were, sadly. Probably at Clemson because everything happens in Clemson for NCAA track and field, as far as we know. Uh, but we do have a qualifier for nationals. Kendall Ward is competed in the high jump and got a PR of 1.79 meters, and will be in Eugene. I think that's next. I believe that's next weekend. Participating in the high jump. I think she finished eighth in the and for the prelim, so not that didn't win or anything like that, but at least punched her ticket to Eugene. So we have at least one more event as an athletic department left before the 2024-2025 season is up.
Yeah. Couple notes that I've got on Art Square, in addition to what we've talked about. It'll be mixed use, residential, living learning community. So assuming that's residential for the public and living learning community for dorm type of stuff. Obviously,
Yep.
there will be arts there. I think maybe calling it creative quarter indicates that I think probably correctly that there'd be some more maker space or kind of the tangible, maybe STEMier, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
STEMier piece of that sounds ad hoc with, maker spaces and creative facilities, as well as potentially classes. I don't know. This is a render and an article on Urbanize that I'm going off of and a video from the Institute a week or two ago. Hotel, office, food hall, and academics. Georgia Tech does have a special use permit.
Mhm.
Hotel and dormitory is listed there for the 7.3 acre site. The biggest thing that came off the page to me is one, um, or the big question, I should say, when are they starting any of this? They've kind of done some pre-site work, and
Right.
hopefully that answer is soon. But kind of got to finish Tech Square Phase 3, I would assume, because there's only so many shovels you can have in the ground at a
Yeah.
time. The other piece that I noticed was the bridge over the tracks is still in the plans. That would be awesome, and
Yep.
do that as soon as possible. Love the connectivity because right now going under the Marietta train tracks and street bridge on North Avenue is pretty awful. So that
Yeah.
would be
It
good to have.
is. Yeah. There as far when I drive by so this area, the Creative Quarter, it's also used to be called Art Square in previous iterations of this. This is where the old Randall Brothers property is. It's very empty. That has not the building's been empty for a while. Every time I drive by there are cars there. They're doing things there. So it's been and there's been permit signs on the fence on the outside of it for a long time. So the humans have been in there doing things for a bit. They haven't torn the building down, but they've been actively engaged there for the last few months. That much I know for sure. Uh, yes, the idea, and going back to the 2022 or 2023, whatever it was, comprehensive campus plan, having a bridge that was going to connect Science Square and what is now Creative Quarter was always a priority because they want to make sure those are nodes. They have to make sure those are connected. Like those being connected is a very critical piece to making this all work and to increasing just the flow of people, flow of ideas, flow of just commerce. Whatever is going to happen there. The idea is this is going to be a defining corner of campus in the southwest corner of campus. Um, yeah, so the outlines, yeah, there's gonna be some office stuff. It'll be like a bigger version uh of Science Square because Science Square has office space. I know Duracell announced they're gonna move a big headquarters into those buildings over there. There's some
Which is
luxury.
weird because I thought that was supposed to be life sciences, but go figure.
Yeah, there's empty space there. I got to go to a building recently. It's very nice. They have very nice buildings over there. But there's still a lot of empty space. Like there's still, like the idea is this is they built the stuff and they're just waiting for it to finish to get people to come, and people are coming. This will be a bigger version of this. There's just more space to work with. This helps critically address the housing needs we have on campus, which are getting aided by the Current Street Residence Hall being built. And then they're going to modernize some of the stuff on Techwood, so this will help out a lot there. They have listed a living learning community in there, which those usually are East Campus dorms right now. So we'll see what that means. Or there's also the honors program. That's where they usually house them. I don't know what that's going to be. It's all that stuff changes all the
My
time.
old dorm on West Campus got turned into an LLC, so I don't know.
So that stuff
I think it may have all gone all girls too or something like that. But
maybe
anyways,
that stuff
I don't know. It's
changes.
been a couple years since I
That
thought
stuff
about
changes.
it.
It changes a lot. Having a food hall there is very big because Lord knows we're going to need as much food on campus as we can get right now. I love that there's supposed to be an open space here. We need more open spaces on campus. The fact that we still don't have a Peters Park to do things in drives me up a wall. Uh,
And importantly, it looks like it's on a podium there. There's huge grade changes over there. Maybe not huge, but
yeah,
certainly in the tens of feet, 20s of feet, grade differences there. So it's going to be a huge undertaking.
it'll
But
be that. Yeah, it'll have that.
let me see a shovel in the ground. Let's go.
Right. Big thing here, and I know this has been a priority for a long time, is having a hotel there. Tech wants to be able to host people that come to campus and that show up. They don't. The Hampton Inn and the George Sackar Hotel are not enough to cover everything. Having and considering that we want to be a place where we already are a place where a bunch of research happens. When people come to Tech to do their business and to meet with students and things like that, like we want to have a very nice place for them to come stay. The George Tech Hotel and Conference Center does a lot of that, but they want more. They want more, and they need more at this point too, because they are. I mean,
Well,
the institute's still growing.
and Tech Hotel to the west side of campus is quite a long distance.
It
So
is, yeah, yeah. That can
and it
you can
helps for hosting events like ACC, NCAA championships at the pool and things like that too. So
exactly, yeah. It will go a
in
long
the
way.
whole universe of it.
Yeah,
So
it will go a long way.
uh,
Yeah. All that to say, this is big. They will. This has been.
also low key closer to career fairs too. I'm sure that helps as well.
Yeah, yeah. When those happen in the CRC, they've a number have happened at McCamish as well. They maybe do some at the exhibit. They kind of do those every.
Exhibition hall.
Yeah, they kind of do those everywhere. They can just kind of pick and choose where they need to do that based on what's needed. All that to say,
But I'm
this is going
yeah.
to be a big growth into the future and kind of the
Shovels in the ground. We did the master plan. We did this plan. They're good plans, man.
they're coming. Hey, it's all
Let's get
coming.
digging.
It's all coming. It's all coming. So if you want to find out more, you can go to arts.gottech.edu/creative quarter, and you can find out everything they've got there right now, or go to the Urbanize Atlanta article, and that has a lot of the details that we just mentioned just now. My last bit is that I walked by Bobby Dodd Stadium recently, and they're digging up the turf. I think they're just putting new turf in. That's all I know. I could see the underbelly of the whatever's underneath the turf there. I don't know if they're replacing the rubber or what. I don't know. All I know is that football season's coming, and there's a Chris Brown concert there in the fall. So
Oh, there is a concert there. Good.
yes, 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 we do have
I
at
haven't
least
heard
one
one of those
concert.
in a minute.
Yeah, there's at least one concert. Yeah,
So I was going to, in my head, go right from arts.gottech.edu to you can find all the rest of our stuff from rumbleseat.com. So just pretend like it's flowed delightfully smoothly like that, and we'll call it a win. You can also find us, contact us over email from the rumbleseat@gmail.com. It's the summer. Yeah, expect some different content than usual, not just sports there. I'm sure we'll dig in more on stuff like what we just talked about in greater detail. Athletic director transition and new building development is primo summer content for us. So expect
financial
more there.
reports.
Yes, that too. In the meantime, you can find us on Blue Sky at FTRS blog. The rest of the Blue Sky stuff. Jack and I are over there as well. You can find Section 103 at Section 103 on Instagram and section103.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at From the Rumble Seat and this podcast. Whoever finds podcasts are sold, please remember to rate, review, tell your friends. We appreciate it. And until we speak again, good night, good luck, and go Jackets.